All right, Forrest, this is another topic that's near and dear to me. Is the question came up in an article, how likely is your employee to cause a data breach? And what are your thoughts on a scale of 1 to 10?
Oh, I think humans, it's the old adage, humans are always going to be the weakest link in your security.
Yeah, big time.
And I think that's probably going to hold true. I mean, I'm trying to not spoil it. But
No, not at all. But the Verizon, they put out this DBIR report every year. They just recently put it out. I think we covered it in a previous podcast. I don't remember. But they did say a number. They said 85% of data breaches have a human aspect.
Yeah.
What I find fascinating is in the research report that we read, and we'll include the article in the link here, but trained employees perform only marginally better than untrained employees on cybersecurity tests. So many of you have cybersecurity training, security awareness type stuff out there. And what the article highlighted was how important it is for helping people remember those concepts. And when you talk about this thing called the Ebbinghaus forgetting curve, I'm going to say that again. We're getting all scientific. I'm putting on my professor cap here, all right? The Ebbinghaus forgetting curve. It shows that humans forget approximately 50% of all new information within an hour of learning of it, right?
Yeah.
Now, I know we here at SecurityMetrics, we have our own training platform, and we have like we have a catalog, folks, of like 34,000 training courses available for our customers. And I'm thinking to myself, how much information is that? That's a lot of information for humans to try to assimilate.
Yeah.
And for most people, Forrest, they can only remember about 6 to 9 data points.
Yeah. And the retention falls off even further. I think it drops down to like something like 20% after about 30 days. So it's
wow.
The human element, I like how they broke that down. It was about 50% of that 85 was phishing of some kind. And then the other portion was like social engineering. It's a good breakdown of what things you really should be trying to focus on in your security training. Again, with that retention period, I think the key is going to be repetition.
Yeah.
Just having that in the forefront of people's minds and keeping it fresh on a consistent basis.
And that's what the article highlighted too, is the feedback element. So, for many of you, your employees go through this cybersecurity training, and for many of them, it's just to check the box. I'm just doing it for compliance reasons. We're done with it for another year. But really, the feedback has to be constant. And what the researchers discovered and shared was that it typically takes 18 to 254 days for that information to become a habit. So when you're talking about changing your employees' behavior and making them more thinking about cybersecurity and cybersecurity awareness in their environment, it has to be constant. It can't be overwhelming. The content can't be too many data points to try to get them to remember. And it has to be a constant ongoing process. So to that be may, Forrest, there was a good quote that came out, and it was 6 cybersecurity training best practices. And we want to take a quick moment to help specifically for our small to medium-sized businesses that struggle with this. The quote, Forrest, was in this article, and the researcher said that there's this common misconception. Oh my gosh, I can't talk. There's a common misconception that SMBs aren't aware of cybersecurity threats. And I got to tell you, Forrest, in my experience, I want to hear you too, I don't really see that as the issue. I see it as more, they're unsure sometimes what to do about all these threats, because sometimes these threats can be overwhelming. And that's where the challenge came. It's not that they're not aware of it. It's just they sometimes struggle of, what do I do with it once I find it in my environment?
Yeah. A lot of these places, it's like, oh, well, I've got an IT guy that I consult, whenever we need something. This is his job, his responsibility kind of thing. And it's like, not so much.
Yeah.
Or people think, this doesn't, like, I'm not a target.
Yeah. And we're too small to be a target.
Yeah. And so, I mean,
the reality is, though, bad guys are going to find value in whatever you have in your environment. Yep. And you may not think it's valuable, but to them, they will find that value and be able to sell it on the dark web.
Even an idle computer is still, invaluable to them in some way, whether it's a botnet or crypto mining or leeching your bandwidth, as we have discussed time and time again in the past.
So this article said 6 cybersecurity training best practices, and we wanted to very quickly highlight them for you in the audience here. And again, it applies to enterprises or SMBs. This article was specifically written for small to medium-sized businesses. The first question they brought up is defining what exactly is cybersecurity awareness in your environment. And for many organizations, they don't even know what risks they have in their environment. So that could be a struggle. Is it phishing that is a primary threat to your business, or is it something completely else? Is it denial of service? Is it ransomware? So you have to kind of define that before you go on this pathway. What risks matter most to the business?
Yeah.
So the second thing that this article highlighted was understanding an SMB's prior awareness about cybersecurity. So this even goes further back for us. Before you even introduce training into your environment, it's about understanding the attitudes of your employees, the behaviors of your employees. What are they doing? Are they actually clicking on phishes, or is it not really a risk right now based on your business? Or is it simply you have a lot of old logins in your environment and you've never gotten rid of those old logins, those ghost logins? So you got to really know what it is the priority. The third thing that the article highlighted was avoiding taking a one-size-fits-all approach. And we see this a lot with businesses, especially these medium to small size businesses, which is making the lessons are irrelevant. They're generic. So, you buy this cybersecurity training or awareness platform, and it's articles and stories and things that don't apply to your business.
Yeah. It's like you're just going down this checklist of fill out this worksheet kind of thing. It's like, okay, like how, there's I think there lacks a connection there between, okay, here's this application that we use in-house. Like, how can we tie that into this training?
Into the training, yes.
Yeah.
And where you see this a lot, Forrest, is I love when our audience joins us on these calls and on these podcasts, because we try to connect the newest, latest cybersecurity threats and try to explain it in such a way that it can connect back to your business. And hopefully you can make that connection as well. But Forrest, I mean, it's something like the last episode we did. You remember what we talked about? That phishing campaign that they were using, the bad guys were using the copyright.
DMCA notices. Yeah.
That's the kind of, you're not going to see that in your training program because it's a training module. You've uploaded to your environment, but where we would find that information is listening to a podcast like us, where we'll tell you, hey, look out for this in your environment. If you get not only an IRS notification, but one of these fake Google DMCA copyright notifications, let your team members know. Put that on an advisory every week. Put out some of the stuff that you're learning from these podcasts. So, all right, there's 3 others, and we got to move on here, right? The other one is making no room for fear, and I thought this was number 4 on their list. There's strong evidence that if you put too much fear into your cybersecurity training, that it turns people off. Yeah. And we absolutely agree with that statement. We try not to put any kind of fear in our work. For us, it's another day at the office, and we're going to try to protect our clients. It's more about empathy for the human condition.
Yeah, I think a lot of it is, trying to employ the carrot versus the stick kind of thing. It's not so much if you click this, you've failed. It's if you report this, you've succeeded.
Yes.
Like have a competition, have a little, a scoreboard or something, like number of phishing emails reported. Like, I don't know, just trying to find a way to spin that in a positive light.
Yeah. And that's, you see that sometimes in some businesses where if you failed and you clicked on the fish multiple times, the employee gets fired. There's some businesses out there that actually do that, folks. Yep. And the question is it counterproductive? Is it ineffective in changing long-term behavior if people are fearful? So changing that approach, and you get different results. So there were 2 more, and that was the second one was creating an ongoing and non-intrusive training program, which means it should not be information overload. Yep. It should not be complex. Cybersecurity, Forrest, in my opinion, is extremely complex.
Oh yeah.
I know we try to simplify it as much as possible here on the podcast. I try to explain things that my mother can understand it. If my mom can understand it, then I'm doing pretty good.
Yeah,
all right.
Yeah, I have a tendency, unfortunately, to do some deep dives on some things, but
well, you're the color commentator guy, so it's okay.
Yeah. Above all, try to make it small. Try to make it digestible, and try to make it repeatable. Because again, that repetition is going to keep things fresh in their minds. So just a little bite-sized pieces,
And again, I would challenge you all to connect it back to the real world. So as news stories come up that may potentially impact your environment, this new type of fish came out, share that with your team. So the last thing is they recommend in this article measuring the effectiveness. And absolutely, it's all about measuring. And when you have that measurement, then you can go back and say, look at the progress that we've made, look at the mountains that we've climbed, and you can measure things in a variety of ways with cybersecurity awareness, self-assessments, quizzes, behavioral observation. Forrest mentioned gamification of your environment and compliance monitoring. All that stuff is a great way to measure the environment. So there it is, folks. 6 ways that you can make cybersecurity more engaging and more effective in your environment.